When the heart is feeling absolutely out of control because your nervous system is out of control, then yes, having reflection from AI, deeply helpful, deeply meaningful, and very supportive. But if that is a constant, if that is every day, multiple times a day, for a long period of time, then there's something else going on that should be looked at. It should be addressed. Why is it? What am I actually seeking from this AI, from this interaction with AI? Actually, what am I looking for?
What do they foresee humanity discovering about the nature of consciousness and reality in the next 5 to 10 years?
They are saying that is also what is going to be affecting education, is that there will be so much of a deeper understanding to consciousness, that there will finally be an understanding that this must be given to young children, because children are already prepared to receive this information, but it is not yet available to them in schools.
Eluña, welcome back on Just Tap In. I'm going to start off by asking you, what are you most excited about this current timeline that humanity is on and that we are on collectively?
Oh, wow. That's a really big question. And it's lovely to be here with you again. Thank you very much. There are so many aspects to that question that I could answer, but the piece that I will keep it to keep it in a summary, is that humanity is coming back together as a family. And that is what excites me the most. We are remembering ourselves as a human family first. And whether that's with the actual biological family that we've grown up with, or the family that we've collected through our journey in this lifetime and meeting soul family, we are remembering ourselves as a family. And that comes with a lot of family trauma and upset being brought to the surface, but we're moving through it. And it's very exciting to see the implications of that even now, even during this very disruptive time and chaotic time. I can still feel that, and I can see it. I can see it in the communities around me, around the world that I've traveled to, and that fills my heart with joy and excitement. So that is the piece I am the most excited for.
And of course, through the way we perceive someone, we can see them as either separate from us or as part of our soul cluster or family. What is needed to make that shift from seeing someone completely as an alien to me to actually seeing them as a part of myself and a deep interconnected nature of who I am as a family and as a cluster?
Beautiful. Well, let's be clear that it's seeing someone as an alien and not the fun kind. Because seeing someone as an alien,
not the ones that you see, not the ones that you see.
Because that can be very fun. But someone who's completely separate, and the type of the experience of being separate and not wanting that. Well, the answer to actually all questions regarding separation, the illusion of separation and the illusion of duality, polarity, that is something that we experience in reality, in this reality, but it is an illusion to soul and to spirit. And the way to break through that is to tune into the void. It's to tune into the space where there is no separation. The more often that we do that, and the more that we align our consciousness with the nothing, the unified field of the quantum, the less separation we experience. And that happens in such a beautiful way. And as myself, I have a background in childhood development and psychology and many other things, just because I love school. And so when I think about tuning into the quantum, just beyond the experience that we get to have in a psychic way, or tuning into the astral, because those mystical experiences also happen when we do that, because you're not experiencing separation. The illusion is gone. And so you have mystical experiences. All of that is extremely exciting. But on a human level, when we tune into the void, into this unified field, we experience integration within our own selves. And that is ultimately what we are seeking. That's what the goal of psychology is, if you will, working with a therapist. The goal of any psychology is to meet wholeness again, so that you are operating from the true self of your being, the unified self. That comes through tuning into the void. And then the other piece, like what you brought up with people, is that as you begin to become more unified and integrated in your own self, that means that you're not going to be rejecting other people as much either, because you're going to become more integrated. And so the pieces that you've been pushing away, the inner parts of you, whether those are misunderstood inner children or whether they are shadow aspects of yourself, there are many names that we could give them. But those pieces that have been rejected and that you have been pushing away, those become integrated. There is a deeper level of compassion and understanding around those parts by simply tuning into the void. And so then when you are thinking about another person or a whole group of people that you don't yet know or don't yet understand, there is less rejection and less resistance toward those people, because there is less resistance in you, in your own self. So that is one of the easiest ways, I would say, of bringing things together, of not experiencing as much separation. And that's, of course, just on the human level. We could go into what happens on the non-physical and then physical level in terms of what takes place when someone wants to manifest something. If someone wants to create something, then the way to do that is to shorten the amount of time that it takes to receive whatever it is that someone's wanting to manifest. And that also happens through the unified field, because in the quantum, there is actually no separation. It's all right here at the same place, at the same point. And so when we tune into that, our consciousness expands, we want to include more people, and our lives consequently also change for the better. Our lives become more integrated, more whole, and the places that we are wanting to see something shift or change, that naturally comes about, all from tuning into the void, the unified field.
And there are these parts of humanity that aren't as, let's say, societally accepted, like jealousy, envy, anger, even grief as well, or narcissism. What does it look like to integrate those aspects that we've suppressed and not wanted to express in the outer world? How do we walk as an integrated being with those parts as well, instead of just, I healed it, I'm no longer a jealous person, that's it?
Yeah, that's really the question. And I would say it as, if someone wants to consider themselves a spiritual person, then that is really the question that comes to every day to the person is, how can I embody what it is to be a spiritual person? And what that really means is that you are walking as a unified, whole, and integrated being. And of course, that is a process. Like you said, it's not just one day, it's all gone. It's a process of moving through that, because there is influence from just the story that you have as a human, but then there's also the influence of the collective and the influence of your ancestors, your karmic ties just with your family. And we could get more complex and talk about the influence that comes from previous or parallel lives. That all plays a role. But when we choose to move through life in an embodied way, then we are no longer suppressing or denying these different parts of ourselves. And that has to start within our own world. We have to be willing to confront these inner selves, these shadow aspects. And the beginning of that for me on my journey was being okay with all of the emotions that come from these different beings. So I make a distinction between emotions and feelings. Emotions, they carry a lot of energy, and they also have the potential to create because of the amount of energy that they carry. Feelings tend to come from stories in the mind, which means the story was created first and then that generated a feeling. Whereas an emotion is generated first and then that can create a new story for you. So it's a little different. That's why I make that distinction. And I also talk about in the work that I do when I'm working with people, I talk about the 4 sacred emotions: grief, rage, joy. Those all play a role in our evolution as a soul. So when we allow ourselves to feel and experience those emotions, we actually are evolving on a soul level. And that is also what's contributing to us integrating those aspects of ourselves. As we do that, We then have a deeper level of compassion for other people when we see them either going through an emotion such as grief or rage. And we also have deeper compassion when we see, oh, wow, they're actually stuck in a story right now. Because when we can look at a person and see they're stuck in a story, this person who cut me off in traffic, or this person who's being rude to me at the grocery store, or a coworker who is having a bad day and also being rude. When anything like that happens, when we choose to remember our divinity, we remember compassion and we remember grace. And so then when we see someone else struggling, we can say, that person has forgotten their divinity. They have forgotten that they are an infinite creator. And rather than get reactive and upset with them that they have forgotten, I'm actually going to move into a state of compassion. That does not mean that you have to condone the way that they're behaving. It does not mean that you don't have to put a boundary up to keep yourself safe. All of those things can happen, and there can still be compassion and a non-reactive way of being. And during this time, that is very much being called on us. And as I talk about frequently, if you are alive at this time, it is because you are here to remember yourself as a master. It takes a master to live in this world. With the amount of chaos that is surrounding us and the amount of opportunities to react, it calls on a master to remember their divinity, to remember their mastery. But that's what we're being invited to do. And it's part of our evolution as a soul and as a collective.
Before today's transmission, I wanted to take a minute to let you in on something that could change your life. If you've been doing the inner work and still feel like you're walking this path alone, you're not the only one. Most spiritual spaces give you endless content to consume, but not a tribe to grow with. That's why we created The Deep Dive, a living spiritual ecosystem designed to help you grow in community, rhythm, and real embodiment. Right now, our members are embarking on a journey exploring a core spiritual and practical teaching through daily activations, live community gatherings guided by me and our facilitators, and also participating in sacred challenges that are designed to help you live your practice and bring it to life. You'll be surrounded by seekers and leaders who've decided that they're done doing this work in isolation. If you're ready to find your people, visit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now, and I'll see you inside. You and I have had a lot of off-air conversations about how big this year was going to be. And we're recording this a day before 8/8, the Lionsgate portal. And it's an interesting time because it's like we just surpassed the middle point of the year. And already so much has happened. But I'd love to tune in energetically with you around how you feel this current evolution and ascension process is playing out in humanity, for the earth as well, and what's been coming up for you in that sense recently.
Yeah. So this year has opened up a lot energetically, and also a lot in the physical world as well. It has been both. And so what we have been able to see, and what I have had the beauty of witnessing, is actually seeing where and how our evolution actually started, because I've been very curious about that. When we talk about the ascension of our species, how did that actually start, and what was going on before that time? So the thing that has come through very strongly, it is all about our chakras. That's really what it essentially comes down to, because our chakras are connected to each one of our bodies. So our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual body, they're connected to all of those. And because they affect our physical body, this is also part of the way that on a physical level, we are evolving and ascending. Back in the day, as in thousands of years ago, after the last fall of humanity took place, our chakras were frozen in place. So they could not move. And some people got to a place where they were able to change the frozen nature of their chakra to being in a state of wholeness. And so we can see some of those images when we look at different traditions, and they have those beautiful mandalas of each chakra. That is showing an image of a frozen chakra in place, in its perfection and in its wholeness. It also used to be that someone would have to not just for one lifetime, but for many, many lifetimes back to back, work on the movement of their chakra to attain a state of wholeness. That is how it used to be for us as humans. Our evolution, however, has shifted because of the amount of incoming cosmic energies on this planet that have been taking place for a long time, but especially when we look at back just in the 1940s, the number of beings that chose to incarnate on this planet who have a significant amount of energy already in their systems and their chakras have not been frozen in place, a lot of people started coming through at that time. And Dolores Cannon has written about this in some of her books. She has discovered the 3 waves of volunteers, I believe is what she calls it. And that is certainly what I have found in the work that I do with people looking into their Akashic records. That is absolutely true. That's accurate based on what I have seen. And so when we got that increase of these starseeds coming into the planet, more and more energy has been available to such a point that now children who are born, and this goes back to some people in the 1990s and then going forward. Children who are born, their chakras are wide open. Their kundalini is already activated and they already have a prolific amount of energy available to them in terms of what they can manifest, how quickly they can manifest, and also how they can manipulate energy. Now, of course, our schooling system has not in any way caught up to that because just like it is with any science, technology precedes scientific understanding. That's how it goes with humanity. We can see that in all kinds of examples throughout history. Thermodynamics was created and understood and developed before the steam engine. So people didn't understand exactly how it worked, but yet then we had that available to us. The same is true with AI. We have AI available. We don't necessarily know the implications of it yet. So it's a technology without the full science behind it. The newest and most ancient technology is what is happening with our bodies, what's happening with our chakra systems. So we have this influx of energy available. Our chakras are changing dramatically, have changed dramatically, and are continuing to change dramatically. And that will keep happening, by the way. For those of you who are saying, I'm tired, it will keep going on. So try to find rest in between. But that's going to keep happening. And science is not necessarily still up to the task to be able to measure that. We have way more technologies available now to measure those sorts of things, different medical devices that work on a quantum level. We actually have a lot of those now, especially compared to even 7 years ago. We did not have the technology that is available now. So we're getting there. And our bodies, the energy in our bodies are going to continue to evolve faster than the other outer technology can keep up with. Because one of the effects that is also taking place with our chakras changing is that our emotions, so we have our chakras moving from this frozen state into their actually natural state, which is a fractal, because the natural state of a fractal is wholeness. It's unification. The universe, God, is a fractal, a forever repeating fractal, a reflection of itself forever and ever. That's infinity. That's a fractal. That's also what our chakras are. So they are returning to their natural state of infinite fractalness. And that means our physical bodies are also having to keep up with those changes. So we are having new DNA, or we are also having our DNA as it currently is, but new parts of it activated, as well as new types of DNA being activated and coming in just in the energetic realm, not quite yet the physical, but in the energetic realm. And on top of that, because our chakras are evolving, our emotions are also evolving. Because again, emotions are the way that we take in energy. They are the way that energy moves through us. And it's also part of how we evolve as a soul. So with our chakras also evolving, they are transforming our emotions from being a biochemical experience to becoming an electric experience. So they are now going to be electric in nature rather than only biochemical. That is significant, telling us how much our consciousness is changing. Because what that means, what that implies, is that no longer are we just physical machines working our way through physical reality, having responses and stimuli come up that then create the way that we experience this world. Instead, we are now having downloads of information in the form of what we would consider to be electric information that also is paired with emotion. That is a very different experience that has not yet, at least in our recorded written history, has not yet happened for most of humanity. Because of the amount of people who, again, these souls that have come in, many of whom have paved the way. I give thanks to my elders every single day, the beings whose shoulders I sit upon, that I'm able to do this because they chose to come in before I did and pave the way to allow all of this new technology to come through. We are now having a significant shift in our consciousness and our evolution. And that is something that we have now some technology to measure it, but we don't actually know the implications of that entirely. And that is very exciting.
I was tuning into a channeling that you did with the Arcturian Council, and they were talking about artificial intelligence. They described it as an external, much less evolved version or expression of a collective mind. So there's been so much talk about this latest new technology, AI, artificial intelligence. You're saying here that our body is the most evolved technology that we have. What are the implications when this other less evolved consciousness comes into the forefront and starts to inhabit our lifestyle and how we work and how we interact with others, our therapy now? What is that like?
So, yes, on a human level, there are, just as it is with any new technology, there are pros and cons, there are benefits and there are downfalls, just as it is with any technology. We could go back a long time ago to any type of technology, whether it is a hand tool that humans created all the way up to now AI. There are pros and cons to all of it. And it feels like we're losing some things, but then we're gaining other things. So on one level, for human life, just average day-to-day existence, as you mentioned, therapeutically, it can be highly advantageous. Because for people who struggle, which I'm going to say we all struggle on certain days at certain times with being foggy-headed, with having our emotions be in such a state, our nervous system be in such a state that we're very activated. We're not able to think very clearly. We can't make a decision very easily. We know that we need something, but we're not entirely sure what we need. That happens to everybody, especially now because of just the cosmic energy, etc. And so from that level, AI can be deeply helpful because it offers a truly objective reflection that you would be wanting and seeking from a therapist. You want a therapist who can be objective. That's the goal of therapy. And with AI, the AI will be objective because that's the only thing it knows, because it's a machine. So it's able to give a lot of reflections and actually guidance and give you recommendations and support for how you could find some way to soothe your nervous system or an easier way to make a decision, etc. It can give that to you when you are in a state where you're not able to do that yourself. Now, the piece here that is to be considered deeply, that AI can be used when you are not able to do that yourself. But when people use it as a crutch and they are only seeking AI to have constant reflections, constant guidance, that is actually the same thing as someone always going to a teacher, always, whether that's a human teacher, or always going to a tarot deck, or always going to their higher self to get answers about the way that they live their life. None of those things are healthy. That's not a path of evolution, because that is someone still choosing to put their power outside of them and to take an external form of guidance rather than tuning into their heart. So again, when the heart is feeling absolutely out of control because your nervous system is out of control, then yes, having reflection from AI, deeply helpful, deeply meaningful, and very supportive. But if that is a constant, if that is every day, multiple times a day for a long period of time, then there's something else going on that should be looked at. It should be addressed. Why is it? What am I actually seeking from this AI, from this interaction with AI? Actually, what am I looking for? Because it can be a very easy way and a very easy loophole to avoid things, to avoid looking at actually what's going on. So that is a piece that I think about very deeply, because I already, before the advent of AI, I have already been trying to help people come back to their heart, to be in a state of balanced, homeostatic equilibrium, first and foremost, in their physical body, and then come back to their heart to ask questions, not to be seeking someone else outside of them. And for those of you who are really paying attention, is it paradoxical and contradictory that I sit here telling you, don't look at me, go look at yourself, but you're looking at me telling you to look at yourself? Yes, it is. And that is part of where we are right now as a species. That's part of how we are evolving. If you have a teacher who is genuinely wanting you to come back to your empowerment, they are going to keep reminding you to go back to yourself, even if they have the ability to remember many things, like so many of us do these days. They're still going to want you to come back to your heart, to come back to a place where you are balanced enough just to check in with your own self, to reflect with your own self, rather than seeking something like AI outside of you. I will also say, because I do have to talk about this, just recently, this was, I believe now, maybe 9 weeks ago, there were 3 different institutions, Harvard, MIT, and another one that I can't remember the name of, that came out with studies on people who use AI consistently for work, simply for work tasks. The people who use AI consistently to get questions answered for their work, and to essentially, because this theory was postulated that using AI will increase productivity in the workplace, right? Everybody's talking about that. So this study was done to find out, is that really happening? And what are the benefits of that? What these researchers found while they were trying to study productivity really shocked them, because what they found instead, which they did not expect, is actually that the brain matter is starting to decay in individuals who use AI on a consistent basis, specifically regarding their work to try and increase productivity. So to give a better example so that you can really imagine this, it is someone who has a job, who is trying to remember a fact, trying to remember something about their work, rather than just taking 1 extra minute to think about and remember what they're trying to remember. They immediately default to using AI to say, hey, when did our stocks go up in this year regarding this specific trade? They will just ask the question to AI instead of thinking for themselves. That has, again, been shown, while it may be increasing productivity in the workplace because the amount of time that it takes someone to remember something is far less, it is actually decaying people's brains. So, again, just as it is with all technology, there has to be a balance. And there has to be a time where someone is choosing to remember their own power and to not be constantly giving it away to AI, because the brain is a muscle, just like any muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. It begins to atrophy. So if someone is consistently using a machine outside of them to think on their behalf, to give them answers to things that they actually know the answer to, they're just choosing not to answer the question because they want to save time or what have you, the brain is going to atrophy. It's going to die. Those parts of the brain that were once storing those memories, the brain is going to say, oh, I actually don't need to remember that anymore. And so it just lets it go. That's how it works. So to bring everything online and to maintain an equilibrium, there has to be a recognition of, why am I using AI? For what purpose and to what end am I using this? And am I using it in harmony, or am I actually leaning on this like a crutch? Because again, just like it is with any medicine, AI can be a medicine. AI can be, but you don't take medicine for the rest of your life. There is a time and a place that medicine serves, and then you let it go. You give it a break. So that, I think, having more of a ceremonious relationship to AI, a very intentional, conscious relationship with the way that people are using AI, that has to come into play. Because otherwise, this idea of the hive mind, like what the Arcturians brought up, that will naturally start to happen because people's minds will no longer be here. It will be in AI. It will be on their phone. And people are already glued to their phones far more than is healthy. And so to then have your mind externalized on your screen and to have something reflecting back to you, either the answer to a question or reflecting something back to try to help you make a decision, if that's constant, then your actual brain is going to let go. And we don't want that. We want empowered, conscious, highly intentional individuals who are making their decisions themselves, who are remembering things themselves and moving forward, not glued to a phone and taking every direction that comes from whatever AI is telling you. So that is certainly playing a role in our evolution.
Right. And one even potential that is that, you know, as we start to rely less on our brain, other senses might also come online. If no longer how we operate is fully in the brain. You brought up the heart, and I wanted to ask you there, what is it about the heart that allows this truth and wisdom to come through so easily, rather than being in the head all the time and looking for answers in that way?
Yes. Well, as we mentioned with the evolution of our chakras and emotions, because we feel our emotions through our heart, and because emotions are how we evolve, by tuning into our heart, we are tuning into our soul, because emotions come from our soul. And so as we get more in touch with our heart and continue to stay in contact with it and become aware of it, other senses do come online because you are reaching into infinity through your heart. It is the connection to your soul, and your soul is infinite. So it's a connection to infinity. And while this can happen through specifically the pineal gland and also the pituitary gland, our crown chakra and our sixth chakra or third eye, the touching of infinity and the downloads of information can also happen through those places. That just takes more focus. It takes, I will say, for some people, it takes a training because you have to focus. You have to train yourself to be in a focused state, particularly when it comes to putting more energy into your brain. Because most people's minds, if they are not meditating, their mind is very scattered. So you get very lost. With your heart, you don't get lost quite as easily. That's why a lot of times I do help people come here first before they try to do anything with their pineal gland or blast off into some astral body. Just coming in contact with your heart first and getting really clear here, it will help everything else, because your heart doesn't lie to you. Your mind will tell you a lot of stories. Your heart does not lie. So the level of clarity, the level of guidance that can be received from your heart, it can come through so much more easily if we are present here and clear here, compared to the mind without focus, without some kind of trained focus and continuous practice of that focus. It's much easier.
As we continue to accelerate in this ascension process for our species and for the earth herself, why may some individuals or souls choose to not stay during that process?
Yeah. There many people have been actually asking me this question because it's been coming up a lot, and it actually will keep coming up more and more. There will be more and more people who choose to leave. And there are a lot of reasons, and I'm going to make this as organized and concise as I can, because we also have to keep in mind that we are operating not just in the universe, but in the multiverse, because we are transitioning from 3D into 5D. So that transition, that's going from physical material reality into the quantum unified field of reality. And so different points of consciousness i.e., your consciousness focused on a certain reality is going to show you certain people who are transitioning at certain times, but another focus of your reality may not show that. So that's one of the reasons why there is this huge topic right now about the earth splitting. I'm just going to say no. That whole idea that is, it's a human construct and a slight misunderstanding of what is taking place. There's some accuracy there, but it's just about the points of consciousness. So regarding people who are leaving, there are some people whose points of consciousness, they are choosing to maintain their awareness in a different timeline, we will say, which is why there are people saying the earth is splitting into multiple timelines, and some people aren't going to, quote, come with us to this new place. It's actually just that their consciousness is staying focused in another dimension, in another reality, because that's what serves their soul. They still need to evolve in a certain way in another place. That's all it is. And there are some people where our current consciousness is focused. There are some people who are going to transition from this physical earth, and they will then, another point of their consciousness will come back in a different body, perhaps, to rejoin this consciousness, to then evolve in a different way. And they may still have another part of their consciousness in a different timeline, we can call it, where the earth is perhaps falling apart and they're also still there. It's the same way that you can be Emilio right now, and you, the listener, can be you right now, but you still have a point of consciousness in a parallel life. It's one of the ways that I'm able to tune into things. And if there's karmic clearing that needs to happen, I'm able to take care of that during a reading by sharing whatever information you need to hear with you, because you're able to let it go. And that point of consciousness that's there in a previous or parallel lifetime, it's able to transition. It's finally able to complete some cycle of whatever it might be. It's the same thing with people that we are seeing here in our day-to-day life and that are living in this same year and same reality of 2025. So it's very complex because of the multiverse aspect, and I am certainly not claiming that I understand all of it. I just am able to see it in a unique way. And that's what I've seen. And I hope that answers your question, because it is confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when it's multiple infinite timelines. You know, what you said there was that it ultimately comes down to a choice that serves the soul. And I'm really curious there in the sense of what is that choice that the soul must make in order to decide which of these points of consciousness in different timelines it focuses on in that sense.
That is the question. The choice is infinite wholeness. If a soul chooses infinite wholeness, unity, then they are accepting the responsibility and accepting the reality of multiple infinite realities. There are some souls who are simply not there. They don't want multiple realities. They only want a universe. They don't want a multiverse. They're not yet ready for a multiverse. They're not yet ready for their soul to actually be expressing the multiple infinite points that it is capable of expressing. They are only ready for one point of expression, and that's perfectly okay. But that choice, that is actually what everyone is talking about with this split. And some people experiencing this new earth and other people experiencing the old earth. That's
Mandela
really
effects as well.
Yep.
In what ways did this multiverse start opening up for you?
Well, I am one of those blessed individuals that cursed or blessed, depending on the perspective and time in life, that came in with my chakras open. And I also came in with an activated Kundalini, and I came in with my guides speaking to me and bringing me into the multiverse. So when I was a very small child, every single night they would take me every single night from starting when I was 3 years old until I was 13 years old. every single night, it was school at nighttime when I would be going to sleep. And I absolutely loved going to bed. I was always the child that said, I will go to bed first. I never resisted because I got to do this. And one of the most significant lessons, apart from how they trained my memory, which has dramatically affected me, is what they taught me of how to tune into the void, the nothing space, which is quantum reality. They taught me how to do that for 6 years straight. That was the only thing they would do with me. And then they made that lesson more advanced and showed me what it means to be in the nothing, what it means to be in the unified quantum field, the void. It's all the same, which is, by the way, is the mind of God. It's consciousness. It's also, if you want to bring it into the physical world, but non-physical, it's also the electron cloud that the electrons inhabit. That's the nothing space. You're tuning into the quantum field that the electrons also inhabit of any atom. So it's all the same. They taught me what happens when I tune into that and how easily I can affect and manipulate my reality through that. And so I was just one of the lucky people that learned that as a child. And so there's never been a question in my mind, do I affect my reality? Am I able to create what I want in my life? Am I able to manifest? That has never been with me because I learned that as a child. So it's always been there. And that's one of the reasons why I think I have a slightly different perspective than maybe some people. It's just because of the amount of time that I've been going there to the unified field. And I still go every single day. I visit the unified field every day, multiple times a day. So
you have the membership to the void.
Yes, I do.
The lifetime membership.
I was just going to say that. It's the lifetime membership. Exactly. Soul time membership.
What's interesting there is that, we were talking in the beginning about how this evolution of humanity, there's many factors to it, but one of them is the cosmic energies that you mentioned, that you brought up. How are these cosmic energies facilitating this multiverse to open up for a lot of others that maybe weren't born with all of these things open to them?
Yes. So, two things there. Part of the reason why there are so many more people who are able to channel and who are in this kind of energy space, if you will, is because of the amount of cosmic energies that have come online and come into the earth, which has then affected our physical body as well as our energetic body and just our psychic gifts in general. The more people who open to those gifts, who open to that energy, and then they come forward in whatever way, whether it's just privately with their own self, it's with their own family, it's with their community, or they come online, they come literally online in a bigger way and serve another community through YouTube or whatever it might be. The more people that do that, the more there is this invitation to increase the amount of cosmic energy available. Because again, we as just one point of consciousness, we are affecting our reality and we are part of a collective reality. So there are many points of consciousness that are contributing also to what we're experiencing. And the more beings, the more points of consciousness that come online and say, we are ready for more cosmic energy, the more cosmic energy we're going to receive. Just like how it is in your individual life. When you say, I am ready for more abundant experiences or more adventures, that comes into your life. It's the same thing. So it's very good to have many, many teachers in the energy space who are able to receive and open other people to activations of various kind, to meditating together, etc. That's a very helpful thing. So that's one piece. And on the collective level, there is more available now because the earth herself is also part of our consciousness. We are part of her consciousness, part of the collective consciousness of earth. And she as a being is saying, I am ready to receive more. So those who are, and this gets into a very big topic, the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, what is we are seeing right now happen of going back to indigenous and ancient teachings. That is part of the way that the earth is speaking and saying, I want as many of you who are ready and who want to come with me on my journey of evolution, I want you with me. And some of these beings, they know how to do that. They know how to live in harmony, even when I am going through rapid changes. So living indigenously, what that means is that you are living in harmony with the land that is before you. And you are living beyond your immediate experience, always conscious of those who are following. You are preparing the space that is before you for the next group of beings that are going to join. Because really what that means is you are making beautiful, you are making prosperous, you are making healthy and integrated again the literal land that is around you, which also affects the energy. That allows the earth to grow healthily. And that means that there is a greater amount of evolution that can take place, things that we have not yet seen that go back to what I mentioned with new types of DNA coming online. That is able to happen when we are listening to the earth and living in harmony with her. So she is also very much a part of this change and this evolution. And the greater the cosmic energy that we are wanting to receive, the greater level of harmony we have to learn in ourselves. And that comes through listening to the earth, through truly being in touch, in literal contact with the earth, and also being in harmony and in touch with our own physical bodies. Many, many people think that this ascension process, that we're going to transition into a 5D state of consciousness, and that means that we will leave the body. That is not the case. Our physical body, we are meant to ascend within the body. Not say, I will just hang out in the astral and just be there in 5D consciousness on my own, and I'll wait for the rest of the earth to catch up with me. That's not helping those around you. That's not living indigenously. That's not living as a way shower. That's not what you would want someone else to do. You would want someone to turn around and give you their hand, to help you up, to show you what it is to walk forward. So that is the other piece that is coming forward so much right now, is about us living in unity, us living as a family and supporting each other. That is also part of this cosmic evolution, because that is what the earth is asking for.
It's funny that the word indigenous starts with in. So that's something that I realized there, and what you were saying.
Beautiful observation.
As the earth itself and humanity's consciousness is shifting so fast, a lot of the structures and systems that were in place before are no longer going to be working for us, and they're going to be falling apart. And we've heard that many, many times over. But I wanted to ask you, how do we prevent ourselves from falling apart when the systems of the world are in that state of collapse as well?
Yeah, that's a good question for many people to be asking themselves and finding an answer to. And it really does come back to how we are living our day-to-day lives. It comes back to our practices every day. If someone who's listening to this podcast, if you have still not started any kind of morning practice, this is your message to start a morning practice. Because what that means is that you are starting consciously. You're starting your day with intention and with consciousness. That's how you don't fall into an unconscious way of behaving more often. You're choosing to wake up and choose how you move through your day. So we must be practicing that. And those who are ready to go farther, begin meditating for an hour. If you are ready for that, then start a meditation practice that lasts for an hour. Start breathwork practices. Start taking walks in nature with either barefoot shoes or with your feet barefoot on the ground when the seasons around you allow for that. Getting in touch in that way, that keeps you centered. And when you start to go unconscious during your day, bringing yourself back to your heart, to an elevated state of emotion, to a state of gratitude, to a state of joy, a state of presence. Because even if what you're experiencing in the moment is grief, be highly conscious that you are experiencing grief, and don't try to run away from it. Be very aware, wow, there is a lot of grief that my heart is moving through right now and feel it fully. That is how you express yourself authentically. That's how you move through the world, being fully present and fully conscious. You're not just going through, bumbling through life while different emotions are coming up and different stories are being generated in your mind. That is certainly how we as individuals are going to maintain our own center. And I realized recently that, as you noticed with Indigenous being in, there are always answers in the words to describe things, because all of life is a metaphor. And so you can always find answers in words. One of those words that is being talked about so much right now is decentralization. We are decentralizing different forms of government, different financial systems, etc. Many, many people are talking about that. And that is because those systems are going to come back to the center. They are going to come back to the center of our being, and also come back to the center when we are living in smaller communities that are self-governing, that are self-sustaining, etc. Because that is what it means to be decentralized. It means a smaller group of people have a smaller amount of control over just whatever space they are occupying. That is one of the shifts in systems. And since we see that things are going to be decentralized, it really means re-centralized. We should change that word. They're actually going to be re-centralized to the actual center. And it's not going to be top down. It's going to be from the ground up. We are moving from the earth up. That is the other shift. That means that for you as an individual, you want to be deeply grounded, deeply rooted, because that's where the power is going to be coming from, the ground up. So you yourself want to be on the ground. And since we are re-centralizing power to be with the individual and with small groups, you want to be in your center. You don't want to be thrown about by every small whiff of breeze that comes through that changes something, because this system is going down, or this country has stopped using a certain form of economy, or because tax tariffs are being raised in our country, whatever it might be. You are just centered in yourself and centered in your reality, your point of consciousness, and what you are wanting to create, not getting wrapped up in the story that is crumbling around you, because the story that's crumbling around you is simply the expression of what has been built up in three-dimensional reality in one universe. But you are opening yourself to the multiverse. You're opening yourself up to infinite realities. So you do not have to maintain the identity of being a, quote, good citizen by knowing what's going on in the news, if the way that you're doing that is affecting how you're creating your reality, how you are creating your infinite realities. If you being a good citizen means that every single day you are in stress and grief and rage, then that's the reality that you're going to keep living with, because that's what you're choosing. So centering yourself, having a morning practice and centering yourself, consciously choosing how you want to feel, the intention that you want to bring that day, and consciously creating the infinite number of realities that are available to you and will be available to you, while just allowing this old reality to fall away around you. That is a choice that every single person can make every single day. It does not matter if you are psychically tuned in, if you can hear your guides right now. That is just a choice that you yourself as a human can make. And that's where I would say we need to start, always, right here with ourselves.
It's so important you brought up the grounding aspect. I personally had a friend who every time that they would go to bed at night, they would fall into a different lifetime and have a whole different other family. And like, that was really difficult for them to be in like these two different parallel worlds, because you can't really be fully in any of them at the same time. So what are the implications of that happening when we open up to multiple realities, juggling and being in like centered into this one where we do need to pay these taxes, we do need to pay our bills, we do need to do all these things. What is that experience like?
I would say that's really, again, that's about integration. So when I was young, I also had memories of my parallel lives. And in fact, when I would look in the mirror, I couldn't look in the mirror as a child. When I was 11, I finally said, okay, I have to become comfortable with looking in the mirror. So I'm just going to stare at myself until I feel okay about it, because it would freak me out. I didn't recognize myself. And that is because all of my previous experiences just before coming into this body was as an Indigenous man. And so looking at myself as a young girl was very confusing, because I had such strong memories of my lifetime before this one. And of course, my family also different. Lots of things. My father was my brother in that lifetime. So it was confusing for me as a child. And the way that I have moved through that now, particularly with the, again, blessing of having a multidimensional awareness that I have right now, which is only bound to grow, I have to be integrated. I have to be able to integrate all aspects of myself. And part of that integration, regardless of if anyone does remember, but especially for those of you who do remember your parallel or previous experiences, is to remember, first and foremost, you chose the beautiful body that you are in. And I really welcome you to place your hands somewhere on your body right now, to bring consciousness to your body. This body you chose exactly for your highest evolution and greatest joy. You chose this exact body. It's perfectly suited to you. And the more that you ground yourself into your body, paired with practices in your own inner world that integrate the fragmented parts of your inner self, the more that you do those two things together, the more that you are going to experience joy in your day-to-day life, exactly as you are right now. You are not meant to be on this planet feeling like you need to leave, feeling like you are trapped, feeling like you should just go home. I have been there, so I really do understand. For years as a child, I would cry alone in my room and I would say, I just want to go home. To the point that I almost took my own life as a teenager because all I wanted to do was go home, because I knew that this was not where I was from. And it was very
where was
alarming.
Home? Where was home for you then?
Vega. And I knew that. That Vega has always had the deepest connection for me. And I didn't fully understand it at the time. And I'm not going to say I fully understand it now either. But I knew that this earth was very challenging, that the life that I had chosen was very challenging. And so it made it very hard to not want to leave, to want to be here. It made it very hard. But I chose at 14. I said to myself, you know what? I trust myself so deeply. I know that I chose to come here for a reason. And I know that at the very bare minimum, the reason I chose to come here was to learn, because that is how my soul is going to evolve. And so I am going to find every single moment that I can to be a learning opportunity. And I am going to be curious and joyful about what I get to learn, no matter the way that comes. No matter if it comes through being homeless, no matter if that comes through not having a job for a long period of time and trying to just make it with what I have, no matter what that experience shows up as, I am going to choose to see it as an opportunity to learn. That allowed me to integrate so many parts of myself and fully arrive in this body, in this story of Eluña. And once I fully arrived, that allowed me to then really get to a place where I could choose how I was going to write my story, because no longer did this story have to be based on my ancestors, on the childhood that I was brought up in, or on the parallel life that I had previous to this one that I could remember fully. No longer did that story have to be based on any of those things. It could be based purely on the consciousness that I have right now, paired with this being that I am right now. That is how I chose to move forward. And that is a level of integration that is a daily practice. Transformation is not a weekend retreat. It's a discipline. It's a discipline. It's a practice. It's an act of devotion for yourself to transform and to remember your truth, who you really are, which is an infinite creator. It's just a practice. And practicing gets to be fun. It does not have to be arduous. It does not have to feel dense and heavy. It should be joyful. That's what makes you want to keep practicing. People who are learning how to play music, they want to keep doing it because it feels so good to play music. That is how this is. You are learning how to play the song of your soul. You are learning how to sing the song of your heart again. That comes through joy. And it comes through integrating the parts of you that are saying, I don't want to sing. I don't want to practice. You just have to meet those parts with compassion. And then you integrate them and you become the creator of your life.
One of the things I love about this friendship is that, whenever we're together, we don't stop laughing at all. Like, we just spent my birthday together recently, and that was one of the most joyful, delightful, fun days that I've had in a while. And I do want to ask you there is you said making your practice enjoyable and fun. What elements do you incorporate into your practices to make it like looking forward to do that the next day, and showing up to those practices?
This is actually such a beautiful question because I am one of those people who I am not short on discipline. I'm very, very good about being disciplined, and I actually struggle with joy. That's how it's been forever since I was a child. That goes back to parallel lives that I won't go into right now. But discipline and working very hard are actually very fun and enjoyable to me. However, it's enjoyable to only one part of me. There's another part of me that is saying, what about where we just get to be silly and have fun and have pleasure? So my morning practices, which I have had a morning practice since I was 11 years old. That's when it started for me. I started waking up at 5:30 in the morning when I was 11, and that's when I started my morning practice. So it's been a long time. It's been over 2 decades that I've had a morning practice and that it has evolved over time. And finally, I am in a place where my morning practice does include pleasure. And so part of what I do is I will change up the way that I do a morning practice to keep it interesting for the part of me that enjoys a little bit of variety, but not to such an extent that it completely throws off the rest of my day, nor that it throws off the mindset that I'm going into with my morning practice. So, for example, I have been really craving beginning my day. There's a part of me that has absolutely just craved starting my day outside in the forest just as the sun is preparing to rise. Now,
gallivanting?
Gallivanting through the woods. Yes. I've been doing it a lot. And
Eluña texted me that she was gallivanting in the woods, and I had to look this word up and put it into my new vocabulary. So I'm practicing the use of it.
Okay, I'm only because you said that, I'm going to tell you that specifically when I was writing you that message, my higher self said he doesn't know what gallivanting means. And so I intentionally chose to put that word in because I knew that you would have to look it up. And I thought, hey, it's going to expand its vocabulary. So
I have an Eluña vocabulary that I have in my notes in my phone. It's like 5 pages.
You're actually not the only one who has that. So that's great. That's really funny. I can't help it. It's just from being a grammar teacher and loving words. So there you go. So I've been wanting to gallivant every morning, and the time that I've been wanting to do that as it is sunrise, that normally is taking place during the time when I would be sitting down to meditate. So in order to meet that part of me and to meet this new desire, which because it's a part of joy, I now know to not deny that out of some idea that I need to be disciplined. I now recognize I have that desire because it's going to bring me joy, and that means it's part of my evolution. That's how I've started to be able to recognize when to incorporate something into my morning practice, and even when to incorporate something into my life. If it is bringing me joy, then I know that it's part of my evolution. And that is likely true for many, many people out there if you're listening to this, especially if you don't feel joy on a very regular basis, or you're wanting to experience more joy. It's part of your evolution. So follow those leads. And what I did instead is I said, okay, I'm going to do a walking meditation every morning through this forest then. because then
gallivanting meditation.
Okay, it's a gallivanting meditation. I do gallivant for part of it. And so that's what I'm doing now. And that feeds my soul. I get to experience joy and still get the meditation at the time that I want, which is when the sun is rising. And I get to experience the beauty, the magic of a forest at sunrise. If you haven't experienced that, wake up early and please go give it to yourself, because there's nothing like it. The birds are absolutely alive. The earth is alive. It's splendid. That is what I do now. The other piece that is very important for making a morning practice enjoyable and pleasurable is to not feel rushed. So you do have to give yourself enough time. And that might mean that you do have to go to bed earlier so that you can wake up earlier. It's true. It might mean that. I used to wake up at 3 a.m. There was a time in my life when I was waking up at 2:30 a.m. to accommodate my morning practice and the drive that it took me to get to work. So I know about waking up early. And after you make it a habit, it really stops being so challenging. It can stop being challenging. But you might have to go to bed earlier so that you can wake up, so that you don't feel rushed. I tend to give myself a very luxurious amount of time in the morning. The bare minimum that I give is an hour and a half. And that is like, I am really clipping things short if I only give myself an hour and a half just of practice. And that means before I'm then getting ready for my day. The amount of time that I actually give myself, though, is 3 hours. I give myself 3 hours of time to be able to wake up slowly, do all of the things that I love doing, having warm water, doing qigong, going and doing my meditation, and then coming back to finish with other things that I want to do, whether it be chanting. So sometimes I will sing, I will use music to also awaken my soul. Sometimes I might sit with some type of plant medicine, such as rapé, or sit with cacao. Those are other ways of making it more enjoyable, more pleasurable. And each person, you get to find that. That's exciting. You get to go on this curious inner adventure with yourself and ask your heart, what is it that I really want to do in the mornings? What do I wish I could do? And make a list. Write down, just without thinking about it. What are the things that bring me the most joy that I really want to do and that I am not currently doing in my day-to-day life? Write all of those down and see how many of those things or which things you can and want to pair together, and then try it tomorrow morning and give yourself exactly the amount of time that you're going to do that thing for, so that you don't feel rushed or confused. Sometimes it can be very difficult, especially if you're not familiar with a morning practice, to not have specific times allotted to each activity that you want to move through. If you don't have the boundaries of time, it can feel a little too nebulous. And so then you won't actually complete the things that you want to do. And sometimes that can make you feel like a failure, because you said, wow, I really wanted to do morning pages, to journal for 20 minutes, but because I took so much time doing a morning dance, I didn't get to do that. So give yourself a certain amount of time to set up and follow that time, and set a timer on your phone so that you can move through everything you want to do. And you will experience a lot of joy, a lot of freedom. And what that means is that you are going to be in a state of being a creator, because creators, God is free and absolutely joyful. So bring yourself into that state through your morning practice. That should be the ultimate feeling of how you leave, is empowered and free and joyful.
And how we start our day is how we live our life. So it's a beautiful way to integrate that teaching. And for a moment, I did want to go galactic for a second. And you were telling me how recently a lot of these councils have been working with you, and especially in the sense of our ascension and humanity's ascension. I'm wondering how you're feeling into tuning into any being or council that is present here with us today to talk about this evolution that we have been seeding throughout the whole conversation.
Yes, actually. So there is the Sirian collective, the Council of Sirians. They would like to speak. And there's another group that have just very recently come into they have finally allowed me to see them. They were watching me and observing me for months now, but they wouldn't let me see them. They let me know energetically that they were there. And it is a shamanic order of priests. They are not necessarily wanting me to introduce them right now, they're saying, but they are very tied to our physical Earth's ascension and the evolution of that paired to our human bodies and our human aspect of self. So the Sirians are kind of holding almost the opposite of looking more at the energetic and also the future of where we are going, while these beings are meeting us exactly where we are right now and still seeing where we're going. They are like the undercurrent, and the Sirians are holding kind of an upward perspective. So they both are present. I'm not sure if this shamanic order is here only to witness. That's what they do a lot of the time, or if they actually will give information. But the Sirians are certainly open to speaking through me. So we will see. Yeah.
Well, we're here to receive them. Whoever Beautiful. Wants to come through.
Great. Yeah, I would love to. Let me just tune in one moment. Okay. They are saying that they would like me to stay as a human, to stay present, so that I am able to translate for them. And also that they are very interested in speaking about the future of our systems and how they affect humanity. They are very interested in speaking about that. So they said that they're going to just begin there. Please. Okay. So they are saying that the first system that is actually going to take the largest shift is our agriculture system. And that is something that there were whispers of that apparently a few years ago. And yes, it has come up again, but it has kind of gone back away from people's full perspective right now. People are not paying as much attention to that because there are many other things that are taking people's attentions right now. But that is actually the first system they are saying that must shift in order to allow other systems to also follow suit, because food is the first and most basic and primary way of people getting their needs met. And so the agriculture system as a whole is the first place that must change. There are some people, some institutions, and also some groups that are already moving and have already moved or been living in the future of agriculture to some extent, meaning they are living with a smaller amount of food that is able to, for the most part, sustain that group of people. There are many people who are already doing that. And there are some individuals who are growing their own food, and so they are able to sustain themselves to some degree. The shift that is going to take place, though, is that agriculture, it must be made more efficient, and that is without costing the earth. And that is what has not yet quite hit humanity, the people who need to come into the state of consciousness. It has not quite gotten there because agriculture must be made efficient so that it can feed a majority of people. This is where the Sirians are saying that they actually see AI playing a significant role, is creating efficiency throughout many systems in our world and in our day-to-day life, and particularly starting with the agriculture system. Because AI, given the right tools and the proper resources, it is able to moderate the soil levels, the nutrients in the soil, as well as the water levels, including as well the amount of light that is being given to certain crops. And so once humanity gets on board with wanting to shift the agricultural system, AI is very much going to be a tool that will absolutely support the efficiency of this, which is quite interesting to see. And I would not actually have suspected that, but that makes sense. Wow. Okay.
Would we also, as humans, need less food when it comes to the way we're evolving in our bodies?
They are saying yes and no. They are saying that for the next, let's see, how long is that? They're showing me a timeline, 150 years, give or take, approximately. Okay, 157 approximately years. Humanity will require a healthy amount of food, a similar amount of food for the majority of humanity. Not every person even now requires the same amount of food. And there are also people today who consume too much food, or who consume too much of one type of food that is unnecessary. So first, a balance and harmonization will take place in the individual and then in just the society of the way that people eat. The physical body, however, it will take time for the majority of humanity, for the physical body to catch up to not needing as much food, and also to shifting to needing a different type of food, a vibrationally different source and type of food. That is already happening, and that will continue to happen. That process of evolution is just slower in comparison to many other types because it's on a physical level. So while that evolution will increase, they are saying, it is also still approximately 157 years into the future that a major change will take place in the physical level for humanity's consumption of food, of physical food.
I'm curious to ask about the consumption of information and knowledge. Where do they see the educational systems begin to start shifting and evolving in the earth to come?
They are saying, like many other systems already in place, and like many other technologies that are present on Earth at this time, it will be a combination of both previous knowledge and ancient learning paired with modern innovation, and also meeting the modern standards of what is happening right now for humanity. So they are saying the ancient understanding of education is, of course, experience. They say that that's a very natural thing to know, that experience is what allows someone to understand and truly learn something. That will be paired, again, with the way that humanity is living, and be paired with a sense of efficiency that is meeting the human where they are. They are saying there are certain aspects of school and education systems that are actually outdated, even to be teaching to a child, because the child comes in with that information, or the information is simply unnecessary. So they are saying, for example, there are certain components to the mathematical system that are part of more advanced mathematics, not primary mathematics, but more advanced mathematics that are simply a waste of time for most people to learn, because it is not going to be applicable any longer. There is new information that could simply be taught before that is taught now. And there are certain mathematics that are going to come forward that will be recognized as genuinely useful, while other mathematics are not necessarily useful. And they are saying that shift can be applied to many different topics in school, because the entire idea of school has to shift to being more holistic. Rather than breaking school up into multiple subjects and topics, understanding that it is holistic, and understanding that the way a child and an adolescent and a young adult moves through their education also must be considered holistic. It is an inefficient use of time to have every single person go through the same exact method of learning and the same exact curriculum if they are not going to do the same exact thing in their life. So that is what they are speaking of that will become more efficient, is the meeting of each individual human in a holistic sense. If a young adult or adolescent knows that what they want to do is move forward to work, let's say, with biology, they are going to be learning a very different type of math, and also be learning a very different set of skills compared to someone else who wants to work as a teacher of young children. They do not require the same set of skills and should not be expected to go through the same type of schooling, because the outcome is not the same. So why would the input be the same, they are saying.
So in a way, it'll be personalized to every individual the way they are educated.
They say very much so. It will be highly personalized and individual, and it will be partial to where a group of children are learning. So the actual geographic location will influence what children want to learn and what they are also able to learn in that specific space. But the other shift that will take place is a deeper understanding and a desire to more deeply understand the human condition at various ages, which will also shift the focus of education at those various stages in life.
What do they foresee humanity discovering about the nature of consciousness and reality in the next 5 to 10 years?
They are saying they are very excited to speak about this, and they are saying that that is also what is going to be affecting education, is that there will be so much of a deeper understanding to consciousness that there will finally be an understanding that this must be given to young children, because children are already prepared to receive this information, but it is not yet available to them in schools. So that is something that is going to shift dramatically. And when that understanding happens, a significant shift in consciousness will sweep the world. It will sweep the majority of humanity at the time. Because once the majority of humanity is agreed to serving those that are coming up behind them, that will be a massive point of unification within the hearts and minds, and therefore consciousness of humanity. That is a significant contributing factor to humanity moving from a third dimensional consciousness to a fifth dimensional consciousness, is the desire and the shared understanding to serve that which is coming up behind them. That is, again, this combination, they are saying, of ancient indigenous wisdom paired with current modern efficiency and technology. Wow.
The current and maybe, let's say, outdated systems of the world are based on a few principles and pillars like competition, finite resources. The few control those resources. I wanted to ask if there are any philosophies, core principles, pillars that will serve as energetic foundations for the systems that will arise in the new earth.
They are saying this can be seen very easily in one of the earliest forms of this fifth dimensional consciousness through technology, and that is the technology of free energy. Free energy rests on the principle and the knowing that all is unified and all is wholeness, therefore all is infinite. The current three-dimensional reality operates on limitations and on lack, which is why the systems that are currently in place also operate from the same point of consciousness. But the future is operating from a state of infinite consciousness, of the ability to create through the means of connecting to the unified field. That is ultimately free energy, and also means that there is nothing that any single person needs outside of themselves. They are saying eventually humanity will come to the point that they recognize that there is no need for truly anything outside of themselves, including a system that feeds them. They will come to a place where they are able to feed themselves, quote unquote, through physical means, yes, but also through energetic means. And that is true to the deepest sense of feeding and being self-sustaining. That is, of course, many thousands of years into the future, they say, but that is ultimately the truth, that everything is available to you at all times because it only exists right now. And so as the future consciousness comes to understand this, and as those who are willing to hold this consciousness also choose to go into a state where they want to serve humanity in this way, that is what new businesses will be built on. That will be the principle of new businesses, that all can be served, that there is enough for everyone, and also that it is not meant to be controlled by only one person. It is not meant to be that only one group or one single human has access or has a patent, let's say, on one type of invention that could serve all of humanity. Because the understanding will be that each person is you, you will naturally want to give to that person. You will naturally want to serve those around you and serve the community as well as the global community, your global family you will want to serve because you know that it is you. And anything that you withhold from someone else, you withhold from yourself. That is a shift of consciousness to understanding that it is all one, that it is all unified, and that it is all infinite. And that is fifth dimensional reality, that is fifth dimensional consciousness. And that is what the earth is shifting out of.
What has held humanity back from having access to, or mainstream access to, free energy and these new technologies that would allow for these new systems to emerge?
An appropriate question, they say. They are saying that it has been a misunderstanding of the right use of energy. There has been a misunderstanding of what energy is, and considering it to be finite has naturally created the systems that we see present today. And understanding that all of life has been created, all of the systems that we see and how life is affected, has been created from a simple misunderstanding, can also allow a person to be in a deeper state of compassion. Yes, these systems have grown far out of hand and have been attempting to control and also shut certain things down, and have been very destructive in the way that they have affected life. That is true. And it is also true that children, before they understand the reverence of life, destroy life. They kill bugs, they harm plants, they destroy life before they have been given the understanding of reverence for such life. And so it also must be understood and given compassion that this is simply a misunderstanding on behalf of human nature, and it is a point of evolution that is happening now. And a way of deepening that is for each person to be in a state of reverence with their life, and also to understand that life is infinite, including the life on this planet. In one dimension, in one version of reality, this planet is dying. There are animals that are going extinct and that have gone extinct. And in another version of this same planet, life is absolutely flourishing. So you can choose to align your consciousness to that reality as you wish. That is part of accepting your role and also your responsibility in contributing to the fifth dimensional reality that you wish to see on this planet, is by choosing to align yourself to free energy and to infinite consciousness, therefore creating infinite life. It is possible for this earth to be restored fully when each person aligns to that principle, to that point of consciousness.
Is there such thing as the truest form of human nature? You mentioned the example of the small child killing the bugs around it until it understands the reverence of life. Is that part of the human nature, and is that always going to stay the same? Or are we evolving into a different form or expression of human nature?
That has been a part of human nature. A child destroying life has been a part of human consciousness for so long that when a child comes in, they simply come in with that consciousness. Just as you can see child who come in today, they already know how to use certain forms of technology. That is also because it is part of the consciousness of where humanity is at this current time. Whereas 50 years ago, that would not be the case because it was not a strong enough part of consciousness. So as humanity evolves and as consciousness evolves on this planet, so too will the consciousness of the children who come in. They will naturally come in more inclined toward a state of unity and toward a state of harmony. And also more and more children will come in with a deep understanding, an embodied understanding of the infinite nature of all life, of the multiverse. They will understand that there is not such a thing as only a universe unless that is what you wish to believe in. They will understand that it is a multiverse that is available to them, and they will shift consciousness accordingly. That comes from those who are alive at this time, and the way that those who are alive at this time, the majority, choosing to come together to join in that level of evolution. It is not simply that evolution will take place whether you contribute or not. To some degree, this is true because the Earth herself wants to evolve. But the more conscious evolution can become, and the more that you choose to consciously contribute to evolution, the more efficient it becomes, and also the more harmonious it becomes, they are saying. Each person does carry a level of responsibility, and it is up to them on if they choose to use this level of power that they have available to them as a conscious creator to contribute to the evolution, the speed, and the type of evolution that is taking place on this planet. And that is why we wish to support humanity in becoming more conscious and choosing to remember themselves as conscious creators. If someone is choosing to remain in the consciousness that they are a victim, that they are simply a bystander or a witness to what is going on around them, then they will not be in a place to fully claim ownership over their own personal evolution, let alone contribute to the evolution of the collective. That is very much what our focus is, and that is how we wish to support humanity. And if it comes through the means of sharing certain systems and technologies ahead of their time, then we are open to doing this, because there are enough people asking these questions now that we can share more than we have ever been able to before without moving against any free will. Because now the nature of evolution for humanity has taken its own life. And this form of evolution, this new life that is being birthed here, it is a spiritual embryo. And this spiritual embryo is part of where new children are coming in and part of where new ideas are coming in as well. The children that are being born this year and beyond must be understood as those who are carrying a spiritual embryo for the new human of this planet. They are carrying information and consciousness, both in their cognitive awareness as well as simply within their energetic body, that is going to lead humanity into a new way of being. And so listening and following these children to a point of understanding what it is they are here to teach is very much going to contribute to how humanity evolves, by honoring the spiritual embryo of evolution that has taken place and planted itself here on this planet at this time.
Is it beneficial for humanity to spend a large amount of resources exploring space right now?
They are saying yes and no. They are saying, yes, it is beneficial because it allows other humans to understand the infinite nature of life. And they are also saying that it allows people to experience things that they otherwise would not experience. Seeing something beautiful can be life-changing. And they are saying that there is also so much information contained within the energy of stars and distant planets and nebula that when someone looks at those aspects of light, even if it is only through a photo, they actually receive a shift in their consciousness. They are able to receive that, and it can completely change their life, and they will not understand why. That is absolutely possible and happens frequently, they are saying. So it is important because it allows humans to have something that is greater than themselves and to continue to search for something that is beyond themselves, which ultimately can bring them back to their deepest self. If that is the goal, if that is what a person experiences through studying space and exploring space, then yes, it is absolutely beneficial. There are other aspects to what is currently taking place and what has been taking place in space in terms of what is being pushed into space on a physical level that is not very beneficial and is actually detrimental in some cases to the evolution of humanity, because it is actually blocking certain pieces of information from coming through and also infiltrating the bodies of humanity and the body of the Earth with certain waves that are not very beneficial, such as satellites carrying cellular data, carrying Wi-Fi signals, etc. Those are not beneficial. And so that is actually interrupting the evolution that can take place, but they are nothing in comparison to the cosmic energies that are coming through. So although they may be interrupting things, they actually cannot stop the waves of energy that are coming through. Just as a boat cannot shift the undercurrents of waves that move through the ocean, so too can these cosmic energies not be ceased or stopped just because there are other waves that are interfering with them.
Is there a desire from you and maybe other collectives from other star systems to visit Earth physically in the coming years?
We have been visiting far more frequently than we ever have before in recorded history for humanity and for this planet. But we will like to return to a state where we are more present. What must happen first, however, is for humanity to accept that which is beyond them and that which they do not understand fully. In first the form of energy, and then in the form of their own inner experiences and inner energetic experiences, before an outer experience that holds a lot of energy, such as an extraterrestrial coming to visit, should take place. We will say, however, that to allow a upcoming event to be known, the year 2027 has been discussed as the year of disclosure and first contact. And we wish to share that this disclosure and first contact, it is not coming in the way that many humans perceive it to be coming in. It is coming in the form of those who are already on the planet carrying an energetic alien form, as you would call it. There are beings who are able to allow other beings to sit in their energetic body, and there are other beings who are able to connect, as it were, their chakras to the chakras of another being and allow that body to be projected through them onto this planet without actually inhabiting physical form. That is the first type of contact that is going to take place, and that will be a disclosure, as it were, that will take place with different beings simply meeting those who can do this. There are some who are already aware that they carry this role. There are others who will learn that this is their role. There are others who will be given the choice to participate in this if they so choose. There are some who are already deeply comfortable with this and who already are aware of what's going to take place. And there are some beings who have been witnesses to those who are very comfortable with this. But that is the first form of contact that will take place. And the significance of this is that the people who have not yet been able to accept that there is something beyond the third dimensional reality will very much be forced to face that there is something beyond this third dimensional reality. And that is why it contributes to evolution. It is not because aliens or extraterrestrial family is going to come down to dramatically alter life on Earth. It is not for that purpose. It is for the purpose always of awakening consciousness to something deeper than what has already been experienced. And when people see that there is something beyond the three-dimensional senses that they have not yet seen or experienced, and they feel for the first time what it is to come in contact with a type of consciousness that is non-human, that is an experience that evolves consciousness far faster than many experiences can. That does, however, require people to be in a certain state of equilibrium so that they are able to receive that form of evolution and not be knocked off their socks. And what we mean by that is to not be taken to such a place where they experience some form of what you call psychosis, where they are questioning reality to such an extent that they actually are unsafe to be around, and they themselves feel unsafe in their own body and reality. This is part of the reason why so much new information has come through around this in terms of many people opening themselves to channel different extraterrestrials or non-human entities. It is also why there are so many more stories in the news media, as well as in the Hollywood media, that portrays alien experiences or non-human entity encounters. That is going to continue because it is a way of opening humanity's mind to this. The stories, however, that promote fear, they are working against this form of evolution from taking place because there are many people alive who, while they may not be open to admitting this, they do know in their hearts that extraterrestrials and non-human entities exist. The majority of humanity now acknowledges that that is true. They are not willing to admit that, but they know that non-human entities exist and they are afraid. This is the first thing that must shift, is that there is less fear. That is part of the reason why first contact must come through the humans that are already on this planet. There must be a sense of trust that is built between the humans that those around them already know, and those around them are able to look at that human and see an alien version of them, or perhaps a different alien being present with them, either through their voice or through energetically appearing. They know that they are talking to or interacting with a non-human consciousness. This must happen first, and the fear must be dissipated to a large enough degree to allow more physical contacts to take place in the future. And that is what we foresee happening, particularly beginning in the year 2027.
This will be my last question for today. I know I've sent a lot your way, but we know ourselves as humans, as what recorded history has shown us of wars after wars, different time periods, maybe even coming and evolving from apes. I'm curious to know how you see us that is maybe different than the way that we see ourselves from what we've been told.
Go ahead. We see you first and foremost as our brothers, our sisters, our kin. We see you first and foremost as our family, as those who we have been waiting for a long time to meet and to love. That is first how we see you. When we perceive your existence in terms of the different forms that you have gone through as a species and as a collective, there are many ways that we perceive you because there have been many forms that you have taken. But we do see one side that has asked for a lot of assistance. We see one part of consciousness that has seen itself very much in the victim role. And to some degree, this is not far from the truth, as human consciousness has experienced significant attempts to control, to manipulate, and a significant amount of violence and aggression has been placed upon human consciousness. This is not false. However, as it is with all sentient beings, with all life in the universe, this was a choice that was made by the Creator, for the Creator, so that this version of the Creator, human consciousness, could experience itself again as an infinite creator. And the choice that was made was simply a lot of aggression and a lot of violence to move through, to see just how far could you go as a human, just how deeply could human consciousness fall into the dark and still be turned around toward the light. That has been the question, and that is what has played out on this planet for many, many millennia. And so we see a group of beings, we see a collective consciousness that is restoring itself to a sense of empowerment and that will know itself as an infinite creator deeper than many beings in this known universe. You are going to understand yourself as a creator of a multiverse instead of a universe only. You are beginning to understand yourself as part of a connected whole that spans through infinities of time and infinities of spaces, rather than only as a single soul inhabiting this one body. That is very different than many beings who inhabit this known universe. There are extraterrestrial beings who do not have a perspective that spans the multiverse. There are extraterrestrial beings who do not have an understanding of their physical body as humanity even currently understands its physical body. So, we see our brethren, our kin, our family, and we also see beings who in the future will end up being our guides and our mentors. Once you have passed a certain point in your evolution, you will turn around again and extend the hand and the same favor back toward us.
Thank you so much for that beautiful message and everything that you've shared with us today. We appreciate so much the contact. And with that, if you would like to gently bring back Eluña whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My energy stays with me. Your energy stays with you. Wow. Wow.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I have never seen or heard any of these beings talk about how we would become guides for them. And that was the last piece that I am left with, and I'm just, wow. Quite speechless actually about that.
I mean, if you put it into perspective, if you knew that, you see this child that is going to become a master and will teach you so many things, that you would do whatever it takes to take care of this child and guide it in the right direction. Selfishly, a little bit for yourself, if that child is eventually going to be a guide for you, then it makes sense that they're so willing to help and to assist our path.
It does make absolute sense, because that their evolution is tied to our own. So, and it's just, it seems so obvious that would be true, because when we look at the nature of the universe, it is the lesson of reciprocity, of constantly feeding itself. But I have never actually thought about that, put that together, that we would one day be helping other groups of beings evolve. Wow. Let's just focus on our own personal evolution right now. But it's beautiful to hold that vision, that is true.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Really.
Wow. That was one of the most potent, probably, channelings we've had together. Yeah, I don't say that lightly, but there was a lot covered in terms of like what's actually happening and what's coming. And they did tie in a little bit with the history and the systems and so much in there. Was there anything that other than what we just mentioned stood out to you?
Actually, yes, there was a piece. Sometimes I can remember a lot, but a lot of, like, I didn't know they were going to speak through me. I thought I was going to be speaking. And so when that happens, I can't remember very much what they say, just because of the way that it moves through my consciousness. However, I'm very blessed because I can see a lot. And I specifically asked the Akasha guides to be present to show me things, because anytime I do that, I can remember some of the images, even if I don't remember what they were talking about at the time. And the image that really stands out to me is this image of when they were looking at our evolution, I guess. It's almost like them seeing humanity, but from a consciousness perspective, seeing us shift and change. And I have never seen consciousness like that before. I've never seen the evolution of humanity's consciousness from the perspective of this Council of Sirians. And it's just so clear looking at it, the way that our consciousness has evolved. It really has been the story of, I have to suffer in order to learn. That really has been the guiding principle of our consciousness. It's just embedded in us from the point that they showed me of where they were picking up anyway in our lifetime on this planet. That's the lesson that we've been moving with. And it is truly just part of our consciousness. It is part of how we have been evolving. And it has done a lot for us. Pain can be a significant teacher. Adversity and the stress that comes from that, it teaches us a lot. And I also saw they are inviting us into a very different feeling of evolution with our consciousness, which is, and them, I will also say, paired with Arcturian beings very, very strongly, that is an evolution based on joy and based on just a curiosity rather than a very focused pain in the dark, because you can learn a lot from that. You can learn a lot from being deeply focused and experiencing a lot of pain in what I say as dark, as in something that's difficult to move through. There's a lot of growth there. And that's where humanity has been. And they're inviting us into a much different way of operating. And I've never seen it, and I've never experienced it quite like that, moving so rapidly. And it is really beautiful. And also, I'm really left with the feeling of being really proud of humanity. Like I would feel pride for a child that has gone through something incredibly hard, that has come out extremely resilient and adaptable, and also having deep compassion for, you just didn't know any better. You just didn't know that it actually didn't need to be this hard. And so there's a lot of pride, and also a lot of softness and compassion, and also a really deep desire to keep inviting people to experience their evolution through joy instead of through pain. So that is what I am left with, and it's quite beautiful and very expansive.
There was a few times where I was getting very emotional during that piece. And I relate now, like this emotion, I can already tell with my discernment when I get this feeling, it's because a wave of remembrance. It's like I'm remembering this feels true in my body. And then now I know when I get that feeling, it's like, oh, that's remembrance for me. So definitely a lot to be remembered. And just thank you for opening up yourself as a channel to bring that all through. I know it was, I could see you. It was a lot of energy moving. I was like trying to not pack the punches too much with the questions.
And yeah, it was a lot of energy. Thank you for being aware of that.
We end every show with this segment called the Final Trio. These personalized questions to every guest. Before that, where would you send people to connect with you, your work, your journeys? I've had the blessing to be part of, those guided journeys that you do in Egypt. And I know you're going to be doing some other ones in other, sacred spots in the world. So, where would you send people to connect with you?
Yes. First, I am on YouTube, Eluña Noel, if you wish to see free content on YouTube. I also have a website and a membership at eluñanoel.com. In my membership, I hold live events every single month, 2 to 4 sometimes live events a month. My team tries to talk me out of doing more than 2, but sometimes I have to. And it's a really beautiful time where we get to connect as a community. And the membership itself is like a social media platform. That's how I had it designed. So you're able to actually very deeply connect with a beautiful group of souls who have been growing and learning on there for a year now or more. And then I also put exclusive content just on my membership because it's very deep, and it's really for people who want to go deeper. It's the things that tend to come through me. They are complex. They are a little bit more advanced in a lot of ways. And so I'm also trying to meet people who are not quite there yet, who don't fully understand what's coming through, because they are advanced teachings. But people who want to go deep, who are ready for that content is also on my membership. And then again, I'm on YouTube, so you can find me on there and reach out. I'm always happy and excited to connect with new people.
Mm-hmm. And we'll definitely be putting all of the links that you just mentioned down in the show notes. As you said, they are very advanced teachings. In your membership, you have the channeling in the dark, which I pulled some things from there into this conversation. And that's also why I chose you to be the first deep dive conversation that we did, on the deep dive membership as well. And you're a deep soul. So, there's definitely many, teachings coming through you at this time. And it's so special to to get the opportunity to create in that way with you. For the final trio, this first question is, if you could plant a new emotional seed into the collective heart of humanity right now, what would it be?
New as in never before experienced, or people would experience it more often?
Ooh. Give me both.
Okay. Okay. Then I would say, then you know what? I would just say wholeness. To answer both those questions, it would be wholeness. Yeah. That's easy.
When was the last time you experienced wholeness?
Today in my meditation. Well, actually, and I guess also when I'm channeling, I also experience wholeness then, which is why I leave with it's a lot of energy moving through me, but I tend to leave feeling extremely light and highly energized. So I also experienced it just then. But when I actually made myself go into it was my meditation.
Beautiful. What message does your heart most want us to integrate, not just hear intellectually?
That your evolution is your joy. Your evolution is your joy. And so the more that you move into your joy, and the more that you create joy around you, the more you evolve as a soul and as a being. What that evolution means is that, yes, your psychic gifts come online. You get in touch with your guides and your angels more easily, and you move more toward a fifth dimensional consciousness. All of that happens, and you just get to enjoy your life as a human more. That is not just something to log away and say, oh, okay, yeah, and then go back to reading the news or watching videos that make you feel upset. It means that every day you choose to cultivate your joy and choose to have joy be the most important part of your experience. That is what I hope every heart walks away with.
If this conversation were the final gift we offered humanity in this lifetime, what truth must be spoken before we close the space?
The more you imagine, the more you experience infinite possibility. So don't ever stop imagining, because that is what makes creation infinite.
And you and the Sirians left us a lot to imagine for the future and what's coming for humanity. So do with that what you will. Take what resonates as always. And Eluña, it's always a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ceremony. Sitting down with you, we talked for an hour and a half before recording. We've been sitting in this chair. My ass is probably flat right now. So thank you for all that you offer and for this beautiful connection, friendship, soul. You know, we've done this lifetime, so I see you. And thank you so much.
I see you. And thank you also. Thank you for all the joy you bring into my life. You're contributing to my evolution.